I know I saw on Twitter that you're a little bit outspoken about how you have faith in Jesus, and I
Yeah.
want to know, was there a specific verse that you look at in your life that helps you?
You know, I'll be honest with you. It's something that's new into my life. I found it on accident.
When you're in the entertainment business, it's an adult business.
Yeah.
Yes, there's kids in it, but the adults don't do things differently when there's kids there per se, right? So like you see things that you wouldn't necessarily be surrounded by if you weren't in that business.
There was even the documentary about the Nickelodeon kids with the pedophilia thing. And I'm literally in that documentary like 6 times.
If you were a kid in the late 90s or early 2000s, there's no way you don't know Frankie Muniz. He was one of the most beloved child stars of his generation, headlining Malcolm in the Middle alongside a young Bryan Cranston, long before Breaking Bad turned Cranston into a household name in his own right. Frankie eventually walked away from acting altogether, traded sound stages for a NASCAR track, became a father, and along the way, found his way to Jesus Christ. Or maybe it's more accurate to say Jesus found him. This is Just God Things, and today we're diving into the spiritual journey of Frankie Muniz and the unflinching look he offers at the darker side of Hollywood, a side few people are positioned to describe the way he can. Let's dive into today's story.
I saw on Twitter that you're a little bit outspoken about how you have faith in Jesus, and I want to know, was there a specific verse that you look at in your life that helps you?
You know, I'll be honest with you. It's something that's new into my life. I found it on accident.
Really?
I was driving across the country. If you had a really long time, I could tell you the whole story. But I was driving across the country, and everything that could possibly go wrong was going wrong. And I was like almost in tears. And the only station that would play was K-Love. This is like maybe 6 years ago. If you know, K-Love is, you know, worship music.
Yeah.
And the song came on, and it was Carrie Job, Cover the Earth, and then it was Big Daddy Weave, Overwhelmed, like back to back. And where I was somewhere in New Mexico at the time, and it was like the perfect moment. And I haven't turned off that radio station since. And that brought me, I started, you know, going to church every Sunday and really kind of being involved in my faith and definitely become a big part of my life because of that trip. So
Yeah, we love to hear that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that kind of music, what's your like favorite gospel or Christian song now?
I love anything Brandon Lake, Phil Wickham. I mean, there's so many good songs. That new Breakthrough song by Andrew Ripp I was listening to on the way here. I love it all, and it's just because it makes me feel good, and that's what brought me that route. Is I was like, you know, I'm a high stress person. I've got all this stuff going on. You know, even though I had a lot of good in my life, I felt like I was still like in a very anxious place, and it just puts me in the right, I think, frame of mind that I want to be in. You know what I mean? And if that little bit of listening to the music could have that effect on me and then bring me down a different path to make my life better, like I hope other people find that.
Absolutely.
I know that it's a pretty ugly business for a lot of people, you know?
Yeah.
I can honestly say, obviously you hear a lot of the stories of the negative things that happen in Hollywood. And there was even the documentary about the Nickelodeon kids with the pedophilia thing. And I'm literally in that documentary like 6 times, like, cause I was working on those shows as like a guest host or whatever and all this kind of stuff. I was in that world.
You were in that
right?
world and you're like, thank God you didn't see it.
Yeah, but I also think about it and I go, how did it not happen? Or, you know what I mean? Like, because I worked from when I was 8 until 21 and on tons of different projects with tons of different people. And, you know, I'm not quite sure. I was always very strong-willed in the sense that I was never afraid to speak up if something was wrong or bad or weird and maybe people saw that where I think, and I'm not blaming the victims. I'm not like, that's not what I'm trying to say here, but I feel like when a lot of child actors get in, the parents are so eager for them to find success and do whatever you're told. No, don't ruffle any feathers. Just, you know, be good on set and do this. And because they think that, or they're told, I mean, I was literally told you're replaceable. You know what I mean? Like we were told we'll find someone else, but my response was do it. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead. You know, you can't make an uncomfortable situation better by saying you're going to get rid of me. Like, fine, do it. That's okay. I don't know. I maybe I'm going in a weird circle.
I know what you're
here,
saying.
but
You're just saying that you weren't privy to it. You just, with all that craziness that happens to a lot of child actors, that for some reason it didn't happen to you, and you are very fortunate.
I mean, and so many of the actors that I worked with, like, have had, difficult that transitions from child actor to adult or whatever's going on in their lives. And I don't know what it is about the business. One thing that I've thought of, I'm 39 years old. I'm about to turn 39 years old. I've never drank in my life. Never had a sip of alcohol. I've never touched a drug. I've never done anything, like literally nothing. And I was around it all the time as a kid. I didn't do it. I just didn't want to. Good
for you.
I stuck it in my head and it just kind of stuck forever. But I don't know. I think when you have success as a young person, right? All of a sudden your life changes to where everyone is always telling you how amazing you are, or they're telling you how much they love you, or you have all that success. Eventually it goes away. It doesn't matter who you are. Eventually it slows down.
Yes. Eventually
it stops. And if some people don't want to accept that, right? They don't want to accept the fact like they're not here anymore, right? The phone's not ringing anymore.
Yeah.
The people aren't coming up to them as much anymore, and it affects them. And I feel like it could lead to a downward spiral because you're looking for something.
There's a temptation to imagine Hollywood's damage in extreme terms. Scandal, initiation rituals, the kind of headlines that shock people into paying attention. But what Frankie describes is something more grounded than that, and in some ways more unsettling. Hollywood is a business that runs on emptying people out. Their time, their family, their mental health, their sense of self. Frankie may not have lived through the kind of scandal that makes headlines, but his family paid a price all the same. A cost that lingers, one that can't fully be undone. And maybe that's exactly why this story turns toward faith. Frankie was driving alone through New Mexico, worn down and on the edge of tears, when a gospel song came through the radio at just the right moment. It's often in that kind of broken, isolated place that God shows up.
Actors, it really does take the family making massive sacrifices, and a lot of them aren't positive sacrifices. That's something else. Another realization I had in the jungle. Candace asked me what good came from it for my family, and I honestly, it might sound awful, I actually don't think any good came from my family. I think there was good for me. There was massive sacrifice on behalf of my family. For my sister, my parents ended up getting divorced. We've really kind of been separate since I left to become an actor at 11, 12 years old. My mom's had, maybe she doesn't want me to talk about this, but she's had, financial issues because she was my manager. So she made a lot of money from me, didn't know how to manage it. And it put her in a really bad position. So even though there was positive, it became negative kind of for everybody, as weird as that sounds. The issue is for most people, most actors, most come from nothing, right? My mom didn't have money. My family didn't have any money. So she didn't know how to manage it. And, you're not talking where it slowly builds. It went from kind of oh, I got some little checks. Oh, yay. I had I remember I drew a little, a fundraiser thing where you put the dollar amounts and you try to fill it up. Yeah. And at the top of it, I had this dirt bike. And I was I'm gonna save all this money. I'm gonna buy this dirt bike when I can. But it goes from that, where you're getting little checks, to all of a sudden, there's a lot of money coming in. So my mom didn't know how to manage it. Nobody knew how to manage it. And everyone gives you advice, whether it's good or bad. Everybody says, oh, you need to hire this person. You need this. You need a lawyer. You need a business manager. You need this. You need a publicist. And all of a sudden you realize you've got 10 people working for you, but really just taking your money. You know what I mean? But so my mom hired a business manager when I was first starting out in Malcolm. I'll say this, he was the only person that I truly trusted in that business. Truly trusted. And I will just say this, and I won't get too far into it. The last person I should have trusted, took insane amounts of my money, stole it, gone. And you hear that story, it happens a lot. It happens to so many people, and no matter how much you're warned of it, it still happens to more people than it doesn't. I was 13, 14, 15, all my friends pretty much were in the entertainment business, a lot of big celebrity kids, and I watched them all kind of go down or off the deep end. But at that same token, or whatever the word is, how many kids do you know that you went to school with that went down a bad path? A decent amount, probably, right? At least even for a little bit, right? I think part of it is just being a kid, transitioning, going through that awkward stage of your life anyway. But when you have the cameras on you, when you have eyeballs on you, when people catch you doing something bad or whatever it is publicized, right? It's a big story. Where if someone who's just going to school does something, maybe people find out in the school, but it doesn't become news necessarily. I think there's a little bit of that. I think there is the element that when you're in the entertainment business, it's an adult business.
Yeah.
Yes, there's kids in it, but the adults don't do things differently when there's kids there per se, right? So like you see things that you wouldn't necessarily be surrounded by if you weren't in that business. The other element is, and I think the biggest element of why when most child actors become adults, why you see such a drastic fall off is if you had success as a kid, right? So early on, even like me, like I didn't necessarily ask for it. I was grateful for it, but it just happened. And when that starts to go away, I think that really affects people, because when you are doing anything and you have success in it, I think you think that it's going to be there forever. You're going to have it forever. Whether, going back to like athletes even, I hear these stories of basketball players, football players, soccer players, whatever it is, they get a contract and they spend all their money, they go crazy, they do this because they just think that it's going to keep going forever, but it doesn't. So I think it almost is like you then are searching for something to fill that void, and usually it's not something that's great, if that makes sense. I think, a lot of child actors, it becomes their identity. Like it's the only thing that they think that they are. So I could see how that would affect people tremendously. I think I never was in that world. I always felt like an outsider when I was in Hollywood, even though I was on a #1 show and I was going to all the same things that the other celebrities were, but I always felt like I didn't fully belong. I just felt like I'm just me and I can't believe I'm here. This is weird.
What stands out most watching Frankie tell his story is the humility in it. He doesn't dress anything up. He says plainly that he doesn't think his family came out ahead, even while he did, and he lets that sit without flinching from it. There's also something else worth noticing. In an industry that swallowed so many of the people around him, Frankie seems to have come through with his head on straight, watching friends and co-stars spiral while somehow staying grounded himself. Maybe that's part of the story too, a kind of quiet protection that led him toward faith rather than away from it. He's not yet 40. He's a new father, a new believer, and he's carrying an enormous platform, more goodwill than most people ever get. Where that goes from here is anyone's guess, but it's hard not to hope he leans further into it, using what he's lived through to speak honestly to the people still caught inside that machine, or the ones it already spit out. God bless him. And if this one moved you, stick around. There's more of these stories to tell.